So if you're watching this, chances are you either currently do or are considering taking pre-workout. Now this video isn't to derail or scare anyone away from taking pre-workout. I personally think it is perfectly safe and actually beneficial in moderation, at least for most brands. There's definitely some out there that I'm just honestly not sure how are legally sold. If you see a pre-workout called like Liquid Death or something like that, which I'm sure there's probably one out there, try to avoid it. Now the key with taking pre-workout, as I just mentioned, is taking it in moderation, which I personally did not do so well at. With that being said, it's story time. So like most people, when you first start working out, it didn't take me long to figure out what pre-workout was. And once I started taking it, I was hooked. Hardly ever did I do a workout thereafter where I didn't take pre-workout before I went to lift. I just didn't. It was like a pre-workout ritual. It became a habit and it was just a part of my daily routine like most people. But here's the sucky part. Like I just mentioned, you get hooked. Why is that a bad thing? The main ingredient in the majority of pre-workouts is caffeine. Now caffeine itself isn't a harmful ingredient in moderation, but the problem occurs when you start drinking large amounts of caffeine over an extended period of time. You see, the more you drink caffeine, the more your brain gets adapted to it. In other words, over time, you're not going to feel the same effects from caffeine as you did when you first started drinking it, whether that be pre-workout, energy drinks, coffee, whatever. Your caffeine tolerance increases. So in order to continue getting that same effect that we love, we start drinking more caffeine. 1 scoop of pre now turns into 2 scoops of pre. Boom. Magic again. Then eventually the cycle repeats. You're not really feeling it anymore, so you either have to take more pre-workout, or you throw in an energy drink, or you try to swap pre-workout brands like most people do, hoping that does the trick. Eventually, as time goes on, you end up having a pretty high caffeine tolerance. Now you may be thinking, so what, I'll just keep drinking more. That's exactly what my thinking was at the time. But as you will learn, that's not such a great idea. I got to the point to where I could drink a scoop of pre-workout and 1 to 2 energy drinks on top of that and still not feel much of an effect. Just to give you an idea of how much caffeine this is, your typical cup of coffee has about 90 milligrams in it, if you make it yourself. Starbucks has a lot more. That's why you love them. A scoop of pre-workout and 1 to 2 energy drinks can contain anywhere between 400 to 600 milligrams of caffeine. That's a pretty good bit. Now I'm not saying this to brag and say, oh, I was drinking so much caffeine. I'm just trying to give you a little bit of an insight of how much that actually was. Guys, I bought a 12 pack of Bangs at one point. If you're buying a case of Bangs, you have a problem. You should never buy a case of Bangs. These suckers have 300 milligrams of caffeine. That's a heart attack in a can. Side story real quick. So I used to work at this gym and I would be walking in, and on several occasions, not just once, there would be an ambulance outside. So of course I'm asking around, like, what's going on? You know, like what happened? One of the workers is like, another older person drank a Bang and they're having heart issues. I'm like, when did this become a normal thing? Now, age aside, no one needs that much caffeine at once. So you might be wondering, if I was drinking all this caffeine, how did I sleep? I actually didn't sleep that well during this time, but it never dawned on me that I wasn't sleeping well because I was drinking so much caffeine. And since I didn't sleep good, I was always tired, so I was just always grabbing for whatever would give me that quick little energy boost. So fast forward a couple of years of me consistently taking pre-workout, slowly increasing my caffeine tolerance over time, I unfortunately started having some health issues. And they weren't directly related to me drinking so much caffeine, but the first thing that people are going to tell you is to stop taking any supplements and stop drinking energy drinks or anything like that. And so, yeah. Now, I obviously was hesitant at first, but I couldn't figure out what was going on with me. So I was like, okay, yeah, I'll stop taking pre-workout. I'll stop drinking energy drinks, whatever. So I went from averaging around 400 milligrams of caffeine a day to absolutely nothing. Now, if you've been drinking something consistently that has caffeine in it and you go without it for a day, sometimes you get this really bad headache, but eventually it goes away. But if you've been taking upwards of 400 milligrams of caffeine a day for the past 2 years consistently and you stop cold turkey, and it wasn't just for a day, I stopped for months. I was hit like a truck. You would have thought I was relapsing from drugs or something.
I don't need it.
Headaches, chills, migraines, I felt awful. It was like I was having pre-workout withdrawals. And if you're used to taking pre-workout before you go lift and you try to go work out without it, it sucked. It wasn't the same. I hated it. I didn't want to go to the gym. I didn't even want to work out. I would have never said that I was dependent on pre-workout to go work out, but I had actually become dependent on it. It was rough. To me, it just wasn't the same. I didn't have that feeling I had before. It just wasn't as fun. I just did not enjoy it. It took me a pretty long time to get used to working out without taking any pre-workout. It really did. For the longest time, I was like, how do people actually do this? But after many months, I finally got into a routine and I learned how to prioritize my sleep and recovery, and I can now easily go work out without taking any pre-workout or anything. That's a huge thing too that not many people consider. Sleep should be your number one priority when it comes to your health and fitness. Sleep is so powerful. It affects your body in more ways than you know, mentally and physically. You should never feel bad for sleeping. I know we live in a culture where it's sleep less and work more, but that's stupid, and I don't care how much drive, motivation, or discipline you have. Eventually you will burn out and you will become completely and utterly exhausted. Sleep as much as possible. If you want to wake up early, go to bed early. Get at least 8 hours of sleep. Sleep more if you can. Now, after completely cutting out pre-workout and anything to do with caffeine and getting to the point to where I no longer have to depend on grabbing something with caffeine to function, do I drink any today? Yes, I do. But not near as much as I used to. I average about a cup of coffee a day, not Starbucks. And if I'm really dragging, then I may have a little pre-workout or an energy drink, but even then it's usually less than 100 milligrams of caffeine. So my point is, and my advice to you, if you are where I was, consuming a crap ton of pre-workout and energy drinks, try to slowly taper off a bit. I'm not saying stop taking pre-workout, and definitely don't stop cold turkey, but don't become dependent on it. If you need 300 milligrams of caffeine every time you go work out, you might have a problem. Eventually, no amount of caffeine is going to help you, and you're just going to be walking around like a zombie. Caffeine is just a quick fix. It's like a band-aid solution. If you want the best energy boost, try to improve your sleep so that you can actually have energy throughout the day so you won't have to constantly be grabbing for something with caffeine in it. I promise you it's a lot healthier this way and you will feel 10 times better. I hope you got something from this video, and if you did, please give it a like and subscribe if you haven't already so you don't miss any of my new videos coming out each week. Comment down below if you have any questions or let me know if you've had a similar experience. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one.